I'm Dr. Marilyn Christensen, City of El Paso's veterinarian, with your vet message. It's been pointed out to me that people who don't spend as much time at the shelter as I do may not know what happens to animals when they come past our doors. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about what El Paso Animal Services does and how animals pass through our facility. El Paso Animal Services is the largest open admission shelter for 300 miles. What this means is that any animal that is brought to us, we are tasked with taking. In addition, we were created to fight or to work on the problem of rabies in the city of El Paso. We still continue to be the quarantine facility. About 33,000 animals come through the city of El Paso shelter in a year. About 60% of them come through the back door with an officer through an entrance that is called a sally port. Sally port is simply a term that means it has a limited number of doors, so if an animal gets away from an officer while they're unloading, the animal won't escape out into the road just past us or even into our parking area. The other 40% come in with the public. They may either be animals that the public no longer wants, animals that need to be euthanized because they're old or sick, or an animal that a Good Samaritan has found. When the animal comes in, it goes through a booking process. Booking being we are taking down as much information as we can about where the animal came from. We're getting a good description of the animal, its sex, its approximate age, what we think the breed of the animal is, whether it has long coat, short coat, floppy ears, long tail, any number of things. At that point, then, we will go ahead and start moving through the shelter as far as getting the animal into a dipping tank so that we can take care of fleas and ticks. Scanning again for a microchip to make sure that there isn't one available or already in the animal. We vaccinate the animal at that point. We put a collar around to ID it. We take its picture so that it can go up immediately on the web. And then we transport it out either into a kennel or into a cage. Now, if an animal has been injured and the officer has noticed that, he will call a vet tech who will then make a judgment call about whether a vet needs to be called in. Either way, the animal is put on a vet checklist for the following day. Animals that come into the shelter that don't have any information, either licensing information or a microchip, have 3 days before they're considered for adoption. You notice that I say before they're available for adoption rather than saying before they're euthanized. Our goal is to keep these animals as long as possible. An animal that has tags or has a microchip number will stay here 6 days before he is available for adoption. El Paso Animal Services has a program called Virtually Irresistible Pets. Animals can be chosen for this program based on what we see when we're working with them. If they're very desirable animals, then we select them to go into this program. They are evaluated by a behavior consultant. They are spayed and neutered ahead of time. They receive their microchip. They receive their rabies vaccine, and they're offered for a special price to the public. These animals also go off shelter to off-site locations. Many people are uncomfortable coming to the shelter to look for an animal as a new pet, and so this is very handy for them. Other animals in the shelter are also available for adoption, but may be fixed or altered after they have been adopted and people have filled out that paperwork. The advantage of having them ready to go at the off-site means people can leave with them right away. Anytime during this process, a rescue group may indicate that they're interested in the animal. If there is an adoption that is possible, then we always go for the adoption. Adoption trumps rescue simply because the sooner a pet can get into a permanent home, the better off it will be. Euthanasia is unfortunately a fact of life in an open admission shelter, and even though we wish it didn't have to be the case, it is done every single day. We have approximately 350 cages that are available. Right now, we average about 300 animals in our inventory, but in the summer it will double. The way that we cope with this is by putting more than one animal with a compatible animal, and that allows us more space. We get some criticism for that, but when the alternative is euthanasia, we think it's a small price to pay. What our goal needs to be is to stop the animals from coming into the shelter. We have different things that we can suggest. We have spay and neuter programs. If people are having problems financially and can't afford food, there are opportunities within the community to get food for them. If they need some help with behavior training, we have a consultant that works with us who can help them. These are alternatives to having those animals traded into us, but unfortunately there are still animals that are left. I hope that that explains a little bit about what goes on at El Paso Animal Services to an animal that comes in. And if you haven't been here, I recommend you come and visit. If you have extra questions that you'd like to ask me, be my guest. We want to be totally transparent because the only way that we can make a difference with these animals is to have everybody understand that there is a problem, and that if you are not the owner of a spayed or neutered dog, that you are a part of that problem. So we look forward to seeing you here. Thank you. This is Marilyn Christensen, the City of El Paso.